Our world has changed, and that has impacted the way that we live and the way that we work. And as we look over the changes that we've gone through over the past year, we have to stop and say, do the skills that we have now still allow us to be effective in this new normal? Can we perform at our best? And the answer is no. We need to have new skills, new competencies in order to be effective in this new normal. And through this workshop series, we will cover 10 competencies that will allow us to achieve excellence and to maintain high performance. If the world has shifted and adapted, we too need to shift, adapt, and transition. Welcome to the Transition Series. My name is Wellington Hepburn. I am the president of Wellington Hepburn International. And today we are embarking on a journey. I won't get too much into that journey because Ahmad is going to take us through that, but I do want to welcome you. I do want to thank you for taking time out of your weekend to invest in yourself. Research shows that individuals that invest in themselves are 50 to 75% more likely to be successful in the future. So don't take this as a small step forward. This is a major step forward. I want to also welcome our local and international participants. In the previous series that we did, we had participants quite literally from all around the world: Malaysia, Spain, Africa, the UK, you name it. And then we also had participants from our family islands too. So thank you for tuning in. And as we always say at WHI, as we grow together. A couple meeting guidelines that I'd like to set. So I would like to encourage you to please keep your mics on mute. We want to learn and we want to hear and absorb the information. And if you can do that, we would greatly appreciate it. Also, I'd like to note to you as a courtesy that this webinar is being recorded. It will be posted on various social media streams. So just know that this is being recorded for further education and sharing purposes. I also would like to highlight that if we do have an instance of Zoom bombing, which I don't think we should, but it did happen several months back, know that us as the hosts will end the meeting. We have all of your email information, and within 5 minutes, we will send you an email to let you know how we'll be moving forward. All right. And last but not least, listen, enjoy the session. Knowledge is power. Knowledge truly is power. And I believe that individuals that are separated from being good to great, it's because of the knowledge that they have and the way that they apply it. So take this knowledge, allow it to shift you, transition you, and make you better. Ahmad, over to you. Ahmad, I think you might be on mute.
I'm a little bit too excited. Wellington, please pardon me. Good afternoon, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be in your presence this afternoon. My name, as Wellington mentioned, is Ahmad Thompson, and I am the principal of Astute Talent Management. And I'm so happy that you've decided to join us today as we transition. And we're going to talk a lot more about that in a few minutes. But I also want to bring to the stage now Miss Erin Brown. She introduces herself to you as well. Thank you so much for being here today.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are so happy to have you here. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to Wellington and Ahmad for also having me here. My name is Erin Brown, and I am a disability inclusion consultant of Erin Brown Connects, Disability Advocacy and Inclusion Management here in Nassau, Bahamas.
Indeed, and Erin, it is a pleasure to have you along with us as well, because I don't want to jump ahead of myself, so I'm going to hold up for a second. I just want to explain a little bit about why WHI and ATM have come together. Wellington Hepburn International and Astute Talent Management are two firms in this country that share the same vision. We want to impart knowledge and we want to impact people's lives, right? As Wellington mentioned, 50 to 75% of persons that decide to invest in themselves perform better.
Yes.
And leadership development and any level of development for self is very, very important. And both of our companies have decided that this is the best way to do that, to come together to produce something that's going to be meaningful and impactful both to you in your personal lives, in your business lives, and into your organizations by extension. And so it's indeed a pleasure to have you all here and to be included by Wellington Hepburn in this transitional series. And I call it transitional because it is certainly just that. It's a time of looking forward and revamping ourselves and getting to your next level. And so then, as we talk about the need to transition, we are in the year 2020. It's now September 20th of the year 2020, and you are 9 months and 20 days in to a year that you had no idea would be bringing something new to you, something challenging to you, something 100% out of this world to you. And so as we talk about the transition series, we're talking about taking on the mindset of having to change, pivot the way you think, but also the way you act. And so over the next several weeks, 10 weeks to be exact, we're going to be talking about a number of things, very high level approach to transitioning, how you move forward in this business world, and also how you adapt in a world where competition is everywhere and everything is at stake. And so it's so great to be a part of this forum today and over the next 10 weeks as we talk about things like divergent thinking and collaboration culture and the data literacy imperative, how important it is to shift your mindset, but also your approach to both leadership.
I think you might be.
Wellington?
Okay, excellent, excellent. Thank you, Ahmad. So transitioning in this period is critically important. And when we think about transitioning, one of the first things that we saw that came evident in our research is that there has to be a focus on resilience. And let me just bring up this slide very quickly. And we decided to start the series on resilience because resilience is one of those things we need this year. Individuals that are resilient, no matter what is thrown at them, can adapt, can pivot, and can change. Agree? And before we get into the interview with Erin and really hearing about her resilience journey, we wanted to level set the conversation and make sure that we're all clear in terms of what it is that we're talking about when we reference resilience. And there's a phenomenal institute. The URL is on the screen, and this is a screenshot of their homepage, called the Resilience Institute, that has done some tremendous research surrounding defining what resilience is and why it's important. They published 2 reports. These are the 2 latest versions. The one to the right is the 2020 report. The one to the left is the 2018 report, where they define resilience and they create and identify the strategic importance behind why resilience is important. So when we talk about resilience on this webinar today, this is the definition that we want to leave with you. If you have a pen and paper, write it down. If you're a social media person, tweet it, save it, put it somewhere, because this definition is important and it grounds the whole conversation surrounding what resilience is. When we think about resilience, we're thinking about bounce. How do you respond in terms of your fortitude, your toughness, and your recovery to rebound from things that are thrown at you in life? We're also talking about flow. How do you develop your talents and use your talents to turn every situation into opportunity? In every problem, there's an opportunity. In every problem, there's potential. So when we think about resilience, we're also talking about flow. When we talk about connecting, it's also how do you show respect and care for others, including nature. And a part of that too deals with emotional intelligence. And also, when we think about flow, we're talking about grow. How do you respond to change and challenge? Whether you know it or not, life will throw you curveballs, whether you like it or not. research actually shows that if you have not encountered a major personal tragedy in the past year, research shows that you have a personal tragedy probably coming within the next 3 to 6 months. And that is not to be the Debbie Downer, but that's to show you that life will throw you curveballs. So it's less about the throwing of the curveball, but being resilient and knowing how to respond to it when it comes. What's interesting about the Resilience Institute is that they've identified factors that organizations and individuals need to be aware of, whether you want to stop minimizing your resilience ability. So everything in red are things that reduce your resilience. Everything in green are things that promote your resilience. So again, as we talk about resilience, we want you to be mindful of some of these things. Apathy, disconnectedness reduces your resilience. Sadness, when you ruminate on past failures or past mistakes that you've made. However, inversely, when you have clear focus on what it is you're trying to achieve, I have laser focus on my goals. Now, it does not mean that I may not have emotional variations every day, but that doesn't change my focus. When you think about boosting your resilience, there are things like optimism, decisiveness, being assertive. So we can share this research after, but again, we just want to level set the conversation before we get into the interview with Erin. What's also interesting about the Resilience Institute is that they have an app that they've developed, and this app assesses individuals on 60 different factors that could influence their resilience. And once you go through what they call this resilience spiral, they give you a report that shows how are you in terms of your resilience ability. What is your score? What are the takeaways? What can you do to improve it? So as an actionable takeaway, if any of you are interested, you can feel free to reach out to the Resilience Institute. We don't have any collaboration or anything with them, but again, we just want to provide tools to help you be better, faster, further, longer, stronger, if I could take that from one of my mentors. And the cost of the app is $60 a year, but it might be something that you might want to look into in terms of building your resilience and allowing yourself to pivot in the middle of this new normal that we are in. All right? So when we think about resilience and when we talk about it today, be mindful that these are the 4 things that we're thinking about and talking about. All right? Over to you, Ahmad.
Indeed, everyone. So, as Wellington mentioned, we're thinking about 4 things as we consider resiliency, right? What is your ability to bounce back, right? To continue with your trajectory. Although your plan has been interrupted, what is your focus? Where are you focusing your energy? How are you depending on the person that you're connected to bring you to your next level? What steps, like the one you're taking today, are you taking to continue to build upon that which you already have? I truly believe that each one of us is created to do something phenomenal. And it is that resilience that does come in, that does kick into play, that determines how well you do what you do. And today we have the absolute pleasure of being joined by, in my opinion, and I think Wellington shares the same opinion, the epitome of resilience. I heard about Erin Brown's story through Wellington a few weeks ago. And I was like, Wellington, stop speaking. This lady is indeed, she is the reason. She is the definition. She is the epitome. She is resilience personified. I then took a few minutes to go and just Google Erin Brown. And it is amazing. I told Erin, I've been sharing her story over the past several days, and I'm sure that I've not done her as much justice as she deserves, because every time I tell it, I get a bit more emotional, and I say a bit more that I'm not supposed to. But it is such a great pleasure to have you with us today, Erin, because you truly do embody resilience. And I hope that through this interview today and through our discussion that the persons involved will understand a little bit more about what it actually means, our role with each other to be resilient, and also to understand how we can impact our business lives and professional lives through resiliency. And so, Erin, again, welcome to you, and we're going to get started.
Thank you. You just have me blushing. I appreciate each and every one of you. This journey is definitely one to be shared.
Absolutely. So, Erin, as we developed this workshop on resilience, you were literally the first person that came to our mind. You are an accomplished business professional with a disability and a great community leader. Let us start with you telling us a little bit about who you are and how you got here.
Well, firstly, thank you for the consideration and even thinking about me. This journey continues to affirm for me that faith without works is dead. I am a representation of each of you, each of us here today, a parent, a daughter, a niece, a sister, an entrepreneur, a student, a mentor, an athlete, a professional, a dreamer, a nation builder, a risk taker, a survivor, and a person living with a disability. I am a Grand Bahamian or Grand Bahama native, the youngest and only daughter of my parents. So much of my childhood memories and friendships were made between my hometown and New Providence. So growing up in a house that was grounded in civic service, athleticism, and politics, trust me, hard work, consistency, and optimism was fundamental. Moving to New Providence was a quick transition in the middle of my school year. So I entered a new norm very early in my life with very little notice. Consequently, my mother had passed in the last 2 months of my high school, which once again implemented another change that was necessary for me to rapidly adjust, as BGCSE's coursework and exams was less than a week away. Yet at that time, life just felt like an adventure I did not sign up for. Yet I had the ability to pivot each time to execute my responsibilities and grow. I remained active in civic service and played sports. So then I moved on to finishing undergraduate studies, and I was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, which is bone cancer. I began intensive treatment that resulted in the amputation above the knee of my left leg. So this is the moment that when it all became the civic service that I've been involved with, advocating for others. It was now time to transition to self-advocacy, living with a disability. I no longer had access to the basic necessities. Programs or spaces no longer included me in plans, events, or goals. It was a stark difference interacting as a non-disabled person and now acquiring a disability. Interacting as a person with a disability meant for me that I had to ensure and be assertive in asking and finding out the inclusive products or services details, or if any assistive support was available when I needed it. So I'll be the first to tell you, I interviewed resumes and into a resume acute purse and use of my prosthetic, which I acquired 6 years into my amputation. But it resulted in the same response, no. So during my 16 years, I continued to advocate the needs of people with disabilities, as well as professionals with disabilities. With no capital, I engaged volunteerism and which I use as an access to bring awareness and gain experience when I couldn't afford gainful employment, which led to the occasional contracts. Showing up provided opportunities for me to gain contracts where I was able to use my skills, my expertise, and my knowledge. it was during that time that I came to the realization that maybe consultation or consultancy was for me and was my niche. And I used every moment as an opportunity to set the stage for disability inclusion. So online certifications, training courses, experiences, these were the space that I occupied during this time, presenting my authentic self with the wealth of knowledge and experience and my brand and business strategies that worked. Because at that time, I was providing consultation in the fashion, beauty, and entertainment industry, which they didn't care what you look like. They just wanted their work done. So disability at that time was definitely still taboo. And my presence and my niche was found very refreshing and welcoming. So that helped a lot too with motivation for me to continue. And I found innovative ways to stay engaged, civically involved, and provide disability awareness and inclusion management to civil society. So I'm currently at the University of the Bahamas, heading the Office of Disabilities and Compliance.
So Erin, I believe that you've brought our session to a halt. You've given us the definition again of resilience. And it's so, you mentioned a few very important things in terms of hard work and consistency, right? Having to acquire a disability, not necessarily be born with a disability. That's a different thing. To be a non-disabled person today and then in tomorrow be a disabled person. That is definitely something to go through, right? But in terms of, we have heard the definition of resilience from the Resilience Institute. But personally, Erin, what is resilience defined by you? How do you define the term resilience?
For me, resilience represents your ability to thrive or your will to thrive, because you're going to go through a lot of things, from self-awareness to mindfulness to even self-care and culturing positive relationships and finding your purpose. So resilience for me is definitely an action verb when it's showing up and putting in the work in order to not only gain, but grow and overcome anything or any barriers that come your way. Absolutely.
That is amazing. I think, you know, Erin, when you talk about resiliency and it's an action word, it isn't something you can just dream up. You have to physically put in the practice and do the things that are required of you to get to a level of resiliency. But it's so good that you've been able to share and then to develop your own version of it, right? And to be able to do the things that are necessary. In terms of, do you believe resilience is an innate characteristic or it's something that you learn?
I personally feel that it's a little bit of both, because like you gave the example of persons who were born with the disabilities versus persons who acquire it. The difference for me is persons who are born with disabilities actually come into a system from birth where persons are telling them the limits and the barriers that just represent and is going to be a part of their normal life. Versus when you acquire a disability, you have already had access to everything, and then all of a sudden it's been yanked from you. And so it's a different feel altogether, even in advocacy, what that means. And so it takes moments in your life to engage resilience, or even to reveal its existence within yourself. And then a learned behavior, because in doing or engaging the will to thrive, you will learn how it looks, how it feels, and how to increase that behavior, how to increase that zeal or that characteristic that is pushing you and pulling you through things that may have stopped you otherwise.
You mentioned two very important words just now. You mentioned engaging, because to engage something means to do more than just look at it, more than just pet it, more than just admire from afar. You have to physically take it upon yourself, take it up and walk with it. And to engage resiliency is important. I think a lot of people, we are all born with some level of strength in us, right? And the things that we believe we can do turn out to be what we can do. And to your earlier point about having to now face the world being yanked away from you in part, in the fact that you're now no longer a non-disabled person, you're someone who was accustomed to life with a leg, or with both legs rather, and now having to reacclimate yourself to the fact that I don't have both of my legs anymore, having to deal with all the stigma that goes along with that, having to face people that you once faced with both legs and now with one leg. So all of these things have to come in play. But who you truly are is tested in moments like this, right?
Yes.
Who you are at your core comes out in a moment when life is no longer what it used to be or what you wanted it to be. And so to engage that resilience, to learn that it's already in you to be great, it's just a matter of tapping into it and bringing it in to the forefront. I think you have demonstrated for the last 15 years and so many to come what that actually looks like, right?
Yes.
It's such a good thing when you can tap into your own resource. And while it could be something that's now, it could have been something that you were accustomed to inside. You knew it was always there, but you never really had a reason to have it manifested. And then look what life does. Life says, go ahead, Erin, be resilient, be great.
Yes.
Despite the fact that the world sees you differently now, and even you may see yourself differently. It's a great thing.
That is the key, seeing yourself differently. And through all of it, you're actually tapping into resilience even when you don't know it. You may not even recognize it as resilience because you're going to go through disappointments and trials in life. But what I find for me is now your self-awareness, who you are, what you represent, because society is going to tell you how to look, how to dress, how to smell, what to do, how to do it. But that does not necessarily represent who you are as a person. You get to define that. And living with a disability, for me, it allows me to define that every day. No one gets to define it for me. I define that.
Indeed. And that's very important. I believe, Erin, that we as human beings put ourselves in a position to allow the definition somebody else has put on us, or the curse that they've put on us, or the things, the damnation they've put on us, to take effect in our lives. So when you literally decide, no, I'm going to speak to what it is that I want to happen for myself, that's when the resiliency kicks in. That's when you can decide, despite what I've gone through, despite what you say or she says, despite even what you say, you can go ahead and still make that situation turn better for you. That's amazing.
Yes.
So Erin, how important do you think resilience is as a professional skill in operating in this new normal and in the business environment?
Absolutely necessary. As I shared, life is designed to take you on an adventure that we definitely did not expect. Yet, we understand that this is the design. We have to understand that this is the design of growth. And yes, it's uncomfortable, it's tiring, it's exhausting, and feel near impossible. Yet, if you do not show up, you have already set yourself up for failure. Mm-hmm. The ability to turn or use fear as fuel will keep your pathway lit no matter what comes your way.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Listen, I was sitting here, Erin and Ahmad, and I'm like, Wellington, don't talk. Ahmad's going through his questions, don't say anything. So now I gotta say something. I can't be quiet the whole time. You know, this business of resilience is just, it's key. You know, individuals that are resilient can survive anything. You know, it's about the whole concept of adaptability and being able to pivot. And even the Resilience Institute, they said that when you build your resilience, it creates what's called strategic agility. And when you get that agility, no matter what comes at you, you can survive it. You know, a question that comes to my mind though, Erin, is when we think about disability inclusion in general, mm-hmm. Is disability inclusion in general something people need to embrace or accept? You know, how has this impacted your ability to remain resilient over the last few years?
Yes. So disability inclusion is a way of life for us all. It is a we discussion. It is a us, we, not them over there. It's for all of us. And we will all experience a disability throughout life, whether temporary or permanent. So being able to receive or to live our 70 will guarantee us that all the accommodations, the remote or flex work policies, accessible programs and services will be needed to ensure continuity of your basic needs and inclusion. And so the whole conversation about disability inclusion, access and inclusion is a human right. It's just not a disability thing. It's just not a marginalized thing. It is a human right, and we must start to address it from the beginning, from the onset of any idea, product, or service. We must ensure that it's accessible and inclusive, because disability comes in a blink of an eye.
And it's about being ready. It's about being
100%.
ready.
Always being ready.
Yes, wow.
You know, I have a saying, stay ready so you don't have to get ready, right? You never know what life is going to throw at you. You never know what's going to come your way. And I believe that the mindset that you adapt, the thoughts that you allow to enter into your space, the people you allow to influence your decisions and influence where you act are going to show up when it is that you have to act. And I always give an example in my training session. If it is that you wake up in the middle of the night, it's 3 a.m., your lights are off, you're groggy, and you have to use the restroom. And you get up and you buck your big toe on that bedpost.
Yeah.
The words that come out of your mouth in an instant are who you truly are at your core. And so if you holler, hey, Jesus, help me, Lord, then that means in you is that Jesus, help me, Lord situation.
Yeah.
But if your first word is, oh, I can't finish the rest of the Holy Sunday, then you know who you are. In moments of stress, your resiliency or lack thereof is going to come up.
Yeah.
Your fight is going to manifest itself. And I believe that what Erin has said is that despite the fact that life has dealt me a completely different card, and in such a small period of time, having to move from people, having to lose my mother, having to graduate from high school, having to start college, having to lose my leg, give birth to children, be a mother, be phenomenal, be like all of these things could only have could only been manifested if it is she had them, in her core from the onset.
Yes.
But Erin, in terms of the journey that is required, right? How have you used your journey to affect change in the community?
I use my journey by being present and accounted for. Honestly and truly, to me, that is the most fundamental thing that I use to change my community. I do not hide in my house. I do not stay hidden when I'm wearing my prosthetic. It is not something that I hide. It's not covered. And this is a personal choice. And this is not something that if a person decides to do that, it makes them any less. No, it doesn't. It's a personal choice of mine that I have made the decision to be visible. I've made the decision to represent and be accounted for because representation matters. We have children, we have persons who are living with disabilities, women, girls, boys, men, professional, athletes, teachers, who either are born with a disability or acquired one, who now feel like life has gave them a deal to stay inside. They have family members who are sharing that same theory. And it's an absolute blatant lie that we're telling ourselves, that society is sharing with us, and that we are falling into. We need to understand that barriers and gaps will continue to exist unless we are accounted for, unless we show up, unless we are represented. And we need to use it as a driving force not only for change of the new norm, or maybe it is the new norm, being more accessible and inclusive, and understanding that our disability allies, persons who are non-disabled, persons who live internationally, persons who you may not hear from or see from, when you're in spaces that you realize that access is not available, it is time to speak up. it is time to say, what about? Because you're advocating for yourself. You might not be living with the disability at this time, but you're advocating for yourself because at any moment you may endure a temporary or a permanent disability.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Wow. You know, as we talk about this, it's an emotional topic for me. And, you know, being resilient and utilizing your experience, I'm sure that it can be hard and it can be a little lonely at times, you know. So, Erin, what keeps you focused? What would you say are those top 3 to 4 tips that you'd like to share with our viewership now to encourage them to continue on their resilience journey?
So I wanted to share a little joke because you talk about coming out of the bed and bucking your toe. I have lived now as an amputee for about 16 years, and I occasionally still fall out of the bed. Like literally still fall in bed because I try to get it on my left side instead of my right. Like these things are real. The reality is things are going to happen and you have to be able to just laugh at yourself sometimes and say, girl, what was you thinking? How did you get on the ground? And pick yourself up. And yes, it can be lonely because sometimes you don't know how to share what you're thinking or your way of thinking, and sometimes you shouldn't share because people quick to tell you, you know what you're saying, you look crazy, something going on, what's I don't know about this, Erin. And I would absolutely say what has kept me positive or has kept me focused is my faith that this is my divine plan. This is a customized plan for Erin Brown in order for my lifetime. This is my impact. This is something that I will be not only helping myself grow and develop, but also impact others so that when I'm done, when my breath has left, I have empowered others to continue and build this journey. And as well as the law of attraction. I don't know if we've had any discussion about it. The law of attraction and manifestation is very true for me. Very, very true for me. And so 3 tips that I would encourage persons to use, because I literally, this is what has kept me through all of my moments. And the rest of the moments, I just rest. I rest and reset very easily. I'm gone. And I take rest. So one of it is change your words, you will change your world.
Wow.
So change your words, change your world. We need to stop talking about, I'm trying to do, I'm hoping that this, oh, I don't know. No, you are doing. Action. Start speaking more about action, not of hopes or not of possibilities. You're going to move as if it's already done, and all you're doing is continuing the steps to get there. Remain present. Yes, we know past, we think about that a lot. Future is like, we have guilt about past and we have anxiety about future. Let's try focusing in the present. Let's try focusing and remaining very present. And when I say very present, most of the times I mean like right now. Yeah. Right now. So questions that I ask myself when I'm having these moments, I would say, am I okay right now? At this exact moment, am I okay? Do I have what I need? Am I protected? Going through this listing, you will find that your anxiety, your breathing, everything will start to calm, and you realize that I'm okay. I'm okay right now, and I need to focus on right now. Accepting change and pivot. Literally, accepting the change and know that it's coming. Yes. Know that it is coming, and when it comes, you are ready to robo-dope, you are ready to duck, you are ready to rest and reset, accept it, and pivot. Yeah. The last thing I would say is know that you're enough. Know that you're more than enough. Know that everything that you give, you deserve. What the love that you give, you deserve back. The energy that you put out, you deserve back. It may not manifest in the way you want it to look and feel like, but it will surely do it in its own divine way. When it comes back, it's going to surprise you.
Wow. Wow. Listen, I feel
phenomenal.
like we need to write a book, Ahmad.
I know, right?
The book coming, man. I feel it.
This is
That's another
amazing.
affirmation. I just got an email the other day telling me, have you started your book yet? And I'm
Wow.
There
like,
you go.
oh.
There you go. So you say affirmation, I say confirmation. So Wellington just said, you saw it earlier this week, the book is coming, that's it. Wow, sorry all.
Listen.
I receive it.
So, amen. So Erin, life is filled with things that go wrong. Life is filled with things that we have no idea will come. But I want you to share with the audience about a time when you actually failed at something. You set out, you had a whole big plan, you spoke life into it, it was all great, but it just didn't come together.
Yeah.
Tell us about a time when you failed. How did you manage
so
it?
much to pick from.
Go right
Well,
ahead.
I'm definitely an onion. I can tell you that. And you know what onions is doing? You're cutting it, they're gonna make you cry. I'm gonna try not to make you cry. But on top of that, I also have layers. I am definitely full of layers, and two layers that affect me the most would be my personal journeys. So not only am I a disability inclusion consultant and an advocate, I'm also an athlete. I am the first para triathlete for the Bahamas training to participate in Tokyo 2021 Paralympics.
Wow.
And when COVID, well, by this time, I've already acquired a running leg. I've already acquired grants, international grants for bikes and all of this stuff. The only thing I had not acquired locally was access to like swimming, the swimming pools, being able to go to different gyms, all of the necessary training modules. So I've been doing it here and there and with individual persons. When COVID hit, these COVID pounds have not been nice. I'll be absolutely honest. I have felt, oh my gosh, I have felt like, okay, so what to do? What to do, Erin? Like, we need these pounds to go. We need to get back on this regimen. We're reopening now. You know, competitions is hopefully going to start again so we can get to Tokyo. And I had to be very honest with myself. And I had to say, one, I enjoyed the break. I honestly did. Two, I have to recognize that with that enjoyment, I now have to put in work times 10. I have to now commit that, yes, you're basically starting your muscles all over again. You're basically saying to yourself, okay, this is where we're at. I'm accepting and I'm going to pivot. Yeah. My next level would be my family. My family is like, those are the two areas that will take me back a bit when it comes to life and different things. And as a mother and as a professional, during COVID-19, I've been dealing with a lot of disability gaps that we're not addressing as a nation, as a community. So it's been very, very stressful, long hours. And your family, I worry about, am I spending enough time with my 5-year-old daughter? She's seeing me working all of this time. And yes, it might seem motivating, but I want to spend time with her too, but at the same time, I want to make sure that what I can contribute and to create change during this time so that it can be sustainable, how do I get the balance? So there's a lot of times I'm going to experience failures. But what I have definitely relied on even during this time where the scale ain't going down yet, I still got to keep increasing my daily regimen of fitness, my physical literacy. I have to make sure that I do something every day because at the end of the day, it all matters when it comes to spending time. Now I split my rest with spending some unique, customized time with my 5-year-old, whether that is imaginary braiding a unicorn hair, or just sitting with her and watching something with her, or even going outside with her. You have to let go of the guilt, because that's the first thing that hit us. Self-criticism. Why did I do this? How did I do this? How can I get out? Let go of the guilt and just full steam ahead. Keep showing up.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Wow. This is powerful. Wow. Okay.
Powerful statement, Wellington.
Yeah, I I am literally trying my best to sit down and not dance around this room. So let us continue.
Indeed.
Let's continue on smartly. So one thing I forgot to mention in the beginning, apologies, is that as we go through our webinar, please feel free to drop any questions or comments in the chat. I see that Georgette is leading us with a question, but now we are in our Q&A segment, and Ahmad's going to lead us through any questions that you have. You can put it in the chat, or if you wish, you can raise your hand, and then Ahmad will allow you to unmute yourself and get your question answered. So Ahmad,
Absolutely.
over to you. So
Georgette's question is here, and it's the first one out of the group. And like Wellington mentioned, please, you can feel free to either unmute yourself at the respective time, or you can type your response in the chat, or your question in the chat rather. And so Erin Georgette says, part of being resilient is to stay focused and to refocus. Sometimes this happens to the point that you are constantly staying prepared. How do you balance this by managing self-care, rest and reset by engaging in activities you enjoy without thinking that you need to be focusing on your next goal? So I guess the question in long and short is saying, how do you stay focused, but also as you're focused, rejuvenate yourself without focusing too much on the next thing you're focused on?
Well, Georgette, for me, I enjoy what I do. I realized that I think I accepted when I received my amputation. I went to those interviews and I wasn't getting the yes to work for somebody. I literally pivoted into working for myself by becoming a consultant. So I created a new norm for myself, a new way of being, a new way of roles, and how do I want to impact. I redefined my role. And so within that, I enjoy it so much. Most of the times I have to say to myself, okay, Erin, take a break, interact with some other person. You know, I have to. So what I've done is I've created days that focus solely on certain things, because now, along with what I've been doing for the past 16 years, being at the university also includes inclusive education. So now creating spaces and policies and support and adaptive training for our administration, our lecturers, our students, giving them the ability to pivot in real time and to access education as all other students are assessing it. And so I had to now say to myself, certain days I do certain things. Throughout the day, I now schedule breaks, because I can get in and I'll be typing and multitasking, and multitasking ain't really all what's cracked up to be. Because you'll be doing a little bit too much when you multitask. Yeah. So you want to make sure that you are focused on a certain thing, and that will mean you're not going to answer some phone calls. You're not going to be able to respond right away. But know that when you do respond, you are fully present in order to give those individuals you're interacting with your full attention. So I hope that helps.
Indeed. Thank you so much for that, Erin. We have another question coming in from Mr. Jonathan Hanna. How do you stay motivated day to day? While I'm generally self-motivated, there are definitely days when I don't feel the drive to do much, especially during COVID.
Yes. So I will give you, let me share with you when I was training for the marathon, to do the marathon here, Sunshine Marathon, and I got up 3 a.m. 3 a.m. You welcome, wow. Georgia. 3 a.m. for training. And that alarm went off, and I be sitting there going, girl, what you doing? Who wants to do 26.2 miles? How you figure this even make, like, I had all these, a whole conversation with myself, 3 a.m. in the morning. And what made me or encouraged me, say 3 a who? The roosters ain't even croaking yet. Trust me, I know. And what allowed me to continue to get up is I thought about the persons who are home. Remember I said representation matters. Who are at home, who are thinking of all the reasons why they should stay inside, all the reasons why they shouldn't put in time and development into themselves. I realized and recognized that my journey was designed that I need to show proof. I need to enable persons to realize what is possible and everything is possible. And so I had that dialogue with myself every morning until it wasn't even a dialogue. 3 o'clock, I used to beat my alarm. And I had to get up 3 o'clock because my son, who's 17 now, was a little boy. And if I didn't get mummy time in, when it's time to get them ready for school, mummy time was out the door. So it was also me saying to myself, I'm worth it. I'm worth it to put in time into me in order to get this goal accomplished.
So what Erin has said then essentially is, she stays motivated by telling herself, by instilling in herself that she can, that she's worth it, and that anything is possible. 3 a.m. That's a goal you've set, you put on your vision board, you told your significant other, your mom, your grandmother, someone, what your next goal is. But the words that come out of your mouth say, man, 3 o'clock so early. Lord, it could be so drafty outside. Lord, they robbing you now on the road, you can't go exercise some more. I can do it when I get up from work this afternoon. Man, I look good. I don't need to put on this shirt no more. The things that you say affect what you've seen in your vision, what you set in your goal, right? And then what you see after what you said is what you've manifested. Because your words have power. You've spoken life into whatever you decided you wanted to see. And so by speaking into your fact that you were going to be too tired at 3 a.m. in the morning, it was going to be too drafty, it was going to be too cold, it was going to be too this, too that, you didn't get up to go 3 o'clock in the morning. But Erin is saying to herself, I am worth it. Everything is possible. I can do so. I encourage you, and so does Erin, to speak life into whatever you decide you want to do. Don't speak down to yourself or to your circumstance. I'm starting to preach, so I'm going to stop and get to our next question. Forgive me. We have a question from Donnell Davis.
That goes back to the tip, change your words, change your world.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And Dale has said, your perception is your reality. That is exactly the truth. Whatever you speak, whatever you believe, you cannot do anything more than you believe you can. That's the bottom line. But I'm going to go to this question from Donnell quickly. And it says, great presentation, Erin, you are an inspiration. Thank you for sharing your story. What are some tips for employers to demonstrate sensitivity and empathy for employees with disabilities in the workplace that honors their independence and humanity? So we don't want to take away from the fact that this is still a human being, but what can we do in the workplace to make it so that they feel a part of our organization, included?
Okay, well, definitely in the workplace, there's 2 layers to business and workplace etiquette per se. There's the Disability Act that is enacted from 2014 that speaks to workplace environment per se. Every 100 employee, one must have a disability, must be an employee with a disability. And what that does is that ensures or encourage persons to hire, to look in your workforce for professionals with disabilities, because they exist, and we exist with a wealth of knowledge that's going to make that difference inside your business. And so the next element is the workplace culture or policies, whether you look at it from an interview process, where when you're posting your vacancies, you want to make sure that everyone is able to apply for this job. When they come to the interview, whether they're a wheelchair user, they're blind, they're deaf, whatever their disability is, know that their skills and their experience is what should be the paramount or the priority. And then you can have a discussion about accommodations, because to be honest, accommodations literally do not have to cost $1,000,002. It can be as simple as automatic doors that you possibly already have. If you have a multi-tier floor, more than likely you're using an elevator, making sure that your elevator is maintained so that if that individual is not working on the ground floor, or even shifting that office space, making sure it's on the ground floor, making it more accessible for the individual that needs to use it. Workplace culture onboarding wise, you want to make sure that when you're introducing your now employee to their team, that the team and everybody recognize that this is a teammate first before disability. It's a teammate with a disability. Yeah. And therefore, your interaction is not solely about the disability. The roles and the duties and the responsibility that is given to this new employee or your teammate will be executed. It may not be executed in the way that you deem necessary or the way that you currently do it, but it will be done. Be open to that. Be open to that and be mindful that we're living in a society that you may be the HR person today doing the interviews as a non-disabled professional. And then tomorrow you wake up and you have to use a wheelchair or you no longer can see. Wouldn't you like to still show up to work?
Yes.
Because you still have your knowledge, you still have your skills, you still have your expertise. And now you have an additional benefit of providing a different and accessible and inclusive way of doing that job so that more persons, more individuals are able to come in and impact change and policy within that organization.
That is something that you've given us all to think about. I think we go about our lives very regularly, very often, as business as usual, right? You see, and I'm guilty of this, and I want to confess to you that I've done it in the past, and I'm very, very sorry, and I promise I won't do it again. Where you are, whether you either park in the disabled spot or you think about it, like you're thinking like, man, ain't nobody coming this kind of time.
I just want to run in and run back out.
I'm going to right inside again with a little piece. They ain't coming to Kentucky, they're going in the drive-thru. They're not going to come here. We act as though the decisions we make don't affect somebody else, right? But it's important that we understand how everything we do affects someone else, right? Yes. Your decision to be resilient or otherwise affects someone else, right? But I want to take this last question that came through from Augusta, because we are in a time of family and we want to keep to our time. It's almost 3 o'clock on a Sunday. We want to make sure you get back to your family dinners and to your Netflix shows and everything. So, Augusta says, Erin, we always hear about prevention education. Is there a disability prevention education component? How do you encourage people to prevent this from happening as opposed to telling everyone to prepare for disability?
Because it's a part of life. It is nothing that I would hope that you would look at if it was to happen, because we experience temporary and permanent disabilities, that your focus would be more about the support needed. For example, you are currently employed and you broke your leg, and so you have to use a pair of crutches. You now have available to you maybe sick leave, where you're able to go home and recoup, or to heal, or to do rehabilitation. You may have access to going to get rehab during that time, during your sick leave, or when you return, you receive support and services in order to get you back to where you was, or to even improve where you was prior to breaking your leg. The issue is when you now have a permanent disability, there is no support. There are no programs. There are no services that are available to get you to a place of reorienting, to still thrive, to still continue. The continuing part is what the issue is. And so to teach or to encourage prevention in that area, I honestly don't feel that it's necessary. What we can do, and what currently is happening, is prevention is actually used not only to help persons to be more aware of whether it's when a certain thing happened, or if you notice this, you would want to avoid that, or if this was to happen, this is what you can do in order to minimize injury. Those type of conversations are still warranted, but if you want to tie it to disability, I don't feel that it would be a worthy conversation per se, because at the end of the day, like I stated, if you live your 70, you can't prevent that. Your eyes are not going to work. Your ears are not going to work. Your knees are not going to work. We are a muscle which will fatigue. So what we need to do is make sure that support, services, products, infrastructure, policies are put in place. So when you wake up and that happens, you move forward. You continue to define how and what you do. I hope that helped.
So, in terms of resilience, we've seen that, and I think it says Marlena. Marlena has written to us essentially the presentation in words, right? We've all spoken at some point about the power of words. Change your words, change your world. We've spoken to the fact that what you speak into the existence is what you manifest. And Marie, I want to get your name right, Marlena, thank you so much for that insight, because it's the truth. What you decide to allow the COVID-19 circumstance to do for you and to you is all on you, right? When you let your resilience shine through, it will happen. When you decide you're gonna buckle under the pressure, you're not gonna be able to do certain things, then that's what's gonna happen as well, right? Wellington, how are you feeling right now? What's going through your mind as
my gosh,
taking all of this information?
we must be synced. Listen, I have so much that I want to say, but what's resonating with me is that this is a skill that I want professionals to have urgency surrounding. We have to learn how to be resilient. Guys, I don't want to take up too much time because we do have a case to get into, but when COVID-19 hit, I remember some of the individuals that come to me for coaching and that I mentor. We were talking about some stuff, and there was a general fear surrounding COVID, and there still is. And some of it's valid, some of it may not be. But I remember saying in that moment, I'm like, we can't influence that. So why don't we do something that we can influence? Why don't you invest in yourself? Why don't you spend more time with your family? You've been talking about how you've been wanting to exercise for a year. Why don't you, instead of being crippled by fear, why don't you enable yourself and be resilient and do something? So as I hear us talk about this, I'm just thinking about so much, because it literally has the ability to change your life if you get this message.
Yeah. And if I can add really quickly before we move on, one nugget that is very important, because we're speaking about COVID and pandemics and disasters and emergencies, right? For years, and I like to use the word eons, because disability has been here from before it even had a word. Our community have asked for remote working, flex work, online, everything that we are currently engaging, that the competent authorities of our nations are saying, we need to move more towards curbside, virtual planning and platforms and this and that. These are the things that our community with disabilities have been begging, demanding, pleading. And it amazes me and persons like us when we see within a period of February to we're now in September, this shift was like, whoa, this shift came.
Yeah.
And it came because non-disabled person deemed it necessary because it was something that they needed to use more than people with disabilities. Instead of looking at it as this is what we need to have sustainable, accessible, inclusive nation spaces, strategies, policies, so that despite disasters, emergencies, we're able to continue as business as usual. And so I just wanted to give that insight, because everything that we're experiencing, being told you can't come out after hours, you can't go there, you can't do this, you must do it this way. These are the conversations and the statements that people with disabilities have lived and are living with to be able to sustain themselves within this world, this global world. So yeah, it's time to take the steps to make sure that we're living sustainably through disability inclusion, which includes all of us.
Indeed,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes, that's so very true. Wow, wow. Okay, so we are now going to switch gears. We're going to take a very short 5-minute break. And during our 5-minute break, we have some live entertainment for you. So we have Donato Hepburn, who is actually my brother, but he's a very, very amazing spoken word and just creative artist. So we have Donato who's here to share a spoken word piece with us. Donato, you are up. Are you there, Donato?
I am. Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we
Indeed.
can hear you and we can see you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I was definitely enjoying the presentation so far. And I just want to first off congratulate Ahmad, Erin, and Wellington. Well, I'll use my affectionate term, O'Neill. Just thank you guys so much for putting together all of this. It is absolutely astounding. And I think there are going to be many, many takeaways from this presentation. So again, thank you guys.
Indeed, indeed.
And what I will be doing today is a poem called Resilience. So I hope that you guys enjoy this. And if you do have any questions or anything afterwards, please feel free. She rises early with invigorated hope and retrieves a pen to pen the next great story. She stares upon a screen, unseen and unrecognized by many, her own personal allegory. A blank page falsely mirrors her convoluted thoughts as she strains to string together words dot by dot. Words fail to proceed. She refuses to concede. Her story struggles to take seed. She will succeed. She persists, burning with unyielding passion and desire, as words gradually fill her page, defying her regular quagmire. Noise populates the air as her 1-year-old daughter awakes. This gentle face reminds her why she fights and increases her stakes. To thrive and transform her test to an untethered testimony. So she continues to write with Amelia's smile as her guiding light, aiming to acquire her divine patrimony. Rejection after rejection ensues, but never does hope she lose. A last message she checks. With eyes closed and heart ready, her vision does not waver. Thank you, ma'am. You are not an apt fit for our publication, she reads, and some may say, hard to savor. She closes her laptop as the morning sun begins to illuminate the turquoise-tinted sky. But her journey does not end here before she extols her goodbye. She gets dressed, grabs her keys, and leaves to go to work. Though her job differs from her passion, she outstrips each colleague and performs with no quirks. Emilia motivates her to thrive and inspires her unmatched drive. So day in and day out, our heroine works to acquire her dream. For some, her path may appear awry, but that's only as it seems. She internally fights to overcome odds and challenging circumstances each day, such as balancing a family, remaining motivated, and creating alone time amidst daily fray. Resilient as she is, she flounders, falls, and missteps like us all, but she rebounds and never forgets her clarion call to simply keep going despite all odds, knowing that someday, some way, somehow, things will amend. She believes and trusts that her actions, fight, and fate will propel her far beyond what she can currently comprehend. You see, our heroine does not have a name because she represents us all since we falter. the same. Daily, we undergo tribulations to test our resilience. It doesn't take colossal action to remain, only a little fortitude and brilliance. We may not win every battle. Remember, the war is ours for the taking. It shan't be easy. Many times it may be overwhelming or even painstaking. Embrace who you are. There is immense power in your thoughts, turned action into unparalleled success. Expect a few bumps, some hiccups, maybe a little bleeding, and some tears, but never acquiesce. As I close and you enjoy this break, I implore you to uptake. Resilience necessitates the zeal to bounce back and an ability to flow, an aptitude to connect, and the strength and vulnerability to grow. Thank you.
Indeed.
Wow. Wow.
Indeed. Indeed.
Thank you, Nato.
That is amazing.
Thank you, Nato. Boy,
Thank you.
God has gifted everyone with unique talents. Wow.
I just want to say, Wellington, you really know you're a poet when you use the word shan't. And then so I can't deny you your accolades. You were amazing. That was phenomenal. I remember Donato when he was a little boy. I feel like I'm 7,000 years old saying that, but it is amazing to see you. Just this is amazing, Donato. Thank you so much for that piece. It's amazing.
Thank you, guys, and I'm honored to be a part of this process with you all, and I look forward to what is to come for each and every one of you.
Indeed.
Thank
you. Yes.
And
Yes,
Nato,
Matisha. South fingers, indeed.
listen, and Nato, your contact information's on the screen. Do you want to comment on it briefly?
Sure. If anyone would like to reach out to me, I would say the easiest ways are definitely through my website, so donatohepburn.com. So I am currently right now based in Toronto, but once society reopens a little bit more, I definitely plan to come back home, and I'll be working on a few projects. So I'll definitely be between the two homes, as I like to say, Canada and the Bahamas, with the Bahamas being first, of course.
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you, Nato.
Thank you again.
Indeed.
Yes, Donato, you're still getting lots of raves in the chat. Beautiful poem. So all I need now is wine for this, Donato, which is so great. What a gift. Now fingers, indeed, in the coffee house type of vibe. Erin says, listen, he was talking to me the whole time. That was very nice. Great job, Donato. Great job. Thank you so much again for your time.
Yes.
And that beautiful piece.
Thank you. All right. So now we're going to transition into our, no pun intended, although that would have been a really good one. We're going to transition into our case study. Absolutely. And you know, in scenarios like this, and this scenario was modeled after a scenario that I actually went through, somewhat similar to it. You know, you do need to ask these questions, and you need to be upfront with yourself and say, even if I apply resilience, can I still be successful for the long term? Because it's better to identify if you need to make a major decision point or make a major change at a particular juncture than to pursue it, knowing that you won't be allowed to really be successful. So let's assume that your team decided that moving forward with the decision made sense. What would have been some of the things that you and your team discussed to maintain resilience in that scenario?
So one of the things we discussed in our group was the importance of flexibility, I should say. The importance of remaining open-minded, because Sometimes, Bahamians, we have a little stereotype about us that we're really resistant to change.
Yeah.
And so we have to ensure that we remain as open-minded as possible. And we receive as much information as we possibly can about our new roles. That was also an initial reaction that popped up about, but the first question was that, why wasn't this information communicated to me a bit more closely? It seems kind of sudden from the case study, especially as a fellow member of HR. You would think that, hey, HR, we are often the quote unquote first to know.
Yeah.
So, the kind of feeling, a bit taken off guard by the information, but just getting as much information as you possibly can, remaining flexible and open-minded to change, and being able to communicate the need for support and for additional information to your superiors and keeping the lines of communication open. Those are some of the things that we talked about in our group.
Okay. Wow. Excellent. See, that's why you was first.
Indeed.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you as well.
Yeah, excellent. So group one, your team lead, would you like to share? Group one, are you there? Was there a team lead?
I'm sorry, that's me. Oh, okay. Sorry.
No problem. Go ahead.
Surprisingly, the first question we answered basically the same about gratitude, and two elements we added to the first question was maybe realizing or removing doubt from us that we're able to take on this new position. Because, a lot of times you've been there for that long, and then they're now transitioning you to something else, and you have to consider, can I really do this?
Yes.
And so you have to have confidence within yourself that you can do it. And another thing was maybe looking at it and saying, yeah, it's time for me to go and fully commit to my own career because I've put in all this time. And yeah, this is an out that I can take, and I'm going to use it. So. Yeah. That was definitely the first reaction that we would add to what our reaction would be.
Okay. Excellent. So it sounds like your team made it through some of the discussion questions, which is great.
Yes.
So when we think about that final question though, how did you and your team talk about maintaining resilience in this scenario, and what opportunities and challenges did your team see?
Well, the first thing we decided in maintaining our resilience was, one, making sure that we have a support system, because especially during a merger, your internal support systems might be raveling. Those who you relied on may not be included in the merger, or may now be experiencing their own anxiety, so you can't lean on them anymore. And so having an external support system also helped with all of this additional pressure. What they say, pressure tall. All of this pressure that you're not dealing with, being able to have a support system to help you deal and process and create a strategy that's going to help through this transition. Mm-hmm. Another thing would be boundaries, making sure that you protect your space and you create boundaries, because you're going to find persons that you may have worked with all this time now feel that they're able to come to you and say things and say things out of the way, not really using empathy. And so you need to be able to protect your space and create boundaries, professional boundaries and personal boundaries. Yes. Of what to discuss during this time. And so the opportunities, though, that our team revealed was during mergers, even though you're not kept and being the lead on this to tell your team, you can also discuss how during this time, as HR professionals, we encourage each other to improve your skill, continuing education, making sure that you build upon the foundation or acquire some new skills or new knowledge to be able to move and shift in different areas. This actually might be an opportunity, if you had done so, you may not be able to retain the job that you have or position that you have. You might actually be able to pivot to a new role within this merger. Yes. But you would have had to have done the work prior to this merger, not wait until the merger to consider, oh, what I should have or could have done.
Yes, yes. Listen,
All right.
wow, there's wisdom in the multitude. You know,
Indeed.
I wanna comment on something which you said about boundaries. One of the primary reasons why individuals lose resilience when they're going through change is fatigue and lack of mental wellness.
Mm-hmm.
And when we think about those two things, we have to think about setting boundaries. I won't take up too much time, but at a particular company in a particular industry, at a particular point in my life, I was working 70 to 80 hours a week. And I remember clearly when I was going through that experience that I was burnt out. I was exhausted. But that was the culture of said organization, where if you wanted to be in that company and also in that particular department, that's what you needed to do. And I remember at one point, my wife and I sat down and had a conversation, and I'm like, love, if I don't leave this job, I think this is gonna be this is either gonna be the end of me or the end of our relationship, you know, because it was just so much pressure. And
Mm-hmm.
when we have to think clearly about how do we establish healthy boundaries between
Yes.
work, personal, home, private business, whatever it may be, you know. So when you said that, I just wanted to comment on that, because fatigue and not protecting your mental wellness has tangible impacts on you as an individual and also on your ability to remain resilient.
Yeah, and
I
that
live
was
by that.
actually our challenge. That was an answer to our challenge too. What challenges do your team anticipate?
Yes,
That literally spoke upon that too, how things can become so volatile that your well-being is at stake.
correct.
So yeah, very correct.
Wow. Thank you, group
You
one.
know,
Oh,
you know,
sorry,
Erin,
Go ahead.
that last point about controlling or taking control of your response to what's going on around you also has an effect on those people with that you're working with. Because even though the team is going to be based on this case study to a certain extent, um, broken apart, there are going to be some people who have the part ways and other persons coming in for the first time. That team is
Mm-hmm.
who you have to use to make the transition that much smoother. And when you use the persons alongside you to make that transition happen smoothly, but your mindset or your approach to it is a little bit too microscopic, it could have really, really bad effects, especially when your team has been with you for a certain period of time. I think it's important to keep the people element alive there because
Yeah.
Yeah,
everyone will be affected by that, you know?
yeah,
That's some really, really
empathy.
great insight so far from group 5 and 1. I appreciate that. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to move into group 3. So if the group lead from group 3 can chime in and share your perspectives, please, that'll be great.
Yes.
Hi, this is Kathleen, Group 3. We didn't get to the final question, but I will discuss what we discussed in the group. So for question 1, our first reaction was basically, we would be anxious for ourselves. Am I going to keep my job? What is my new role going to be? And I'm also going to be anxious for my staff because it indicated that you're going to have many new staff and you actually have to be the one to give your staff the pink slip, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
So that's an issue. And then also just generally mergers and acquisitions can be challenging because especially if you're coming from 2 separate companies and merging, you don't know which culture is going to dominate if you have to develop a new culture. So it can be challenging. With regards to the second question, we spoke about just being informed. So you need to do your research. You need to find out about this new company, who are the people that you will be more closely associated with, what is their organizational structure, what is their culture, and you just need to get as much information as possible. For the third question, internal dialogue, you want to be able to, when you disengage your staff, you want to do so compassionately. I mean, it's never an easy thing, but I've seen some disengagements that have been really nasty.
Yeah.
And you don't want that.
Yeah.
So that was one thing we also wanted to make sure happen. And another thing was where we can actually help those staff who we know are going to be displaced with some training so they can pivot into new roles or upskill their existing skill set and training. And another point was possibly even providing incentives to those staff who are going to be displayed to remain with the company, because you are anxious, you just want to go, you want to have a sure thing. But sometimes you as the company with the merger, you need their assistance, you need them to still work and to be productive up to the point that they disengage. And so you may actually offer them some sort of bonus for remaining with the company up to that point.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, in this particular series, we've taken an aggressive approach to developing skill sets. So in the first hour, we teach you, we give you principles, we let you hear from an industry expert. This particular episode was Erin Brown. And now we want to give you a case to allow you to reflect on what does it mean to be resilient. And in this case, it's just so much. It's personal resilience. How do I respond? It's resilience as a team leader in my current Bahamian context. It's resilience in terms of adapting to a new leader who's a foreign leader in another country. It's resilience in terms of navigating team members that exist in another country. It's resilience in terms of aligning organizational structure for two different companies. It's a lot of different resilience elements. It's resilience in terms of being one of the major spokespersons for navigating the change in the organization. So we hope that this allowed you to reflect on resilience in a lot of different lenses and help you think about some of the practical steps and tips that you could do and could apply when you come to a scenario where you need to exhibit resilience. Unfortunately, because of time, we aren't able to hear from all groups, but we wanted to hear from some of you, and we hope that that was value adding. All right. So now I'll hand it over to Ahmad, who will summarize some central themes from today's webinar.
Indeed. Good afternoon again, everyone, and thank you so much for your feedback. Groups 5, 1, and 3. It's important that as we talk about, we discussed today in the conversation about resilience. Resilience is something that we've learned it's both innate and it's a learned behavior, because there are things that you are born with, but you don't actually realize until you have to, or until someone has tapped into it for you. And resilience, as we've realized today, as we've learned today, is something that we all have. And sometimes our life circumstances dictate that we demonstrate it. And sometimes we tap into it ourselves by making conscious decisions to let our resilience take effect. I just want to encourage you, as we talk about, we brought it to the workplace towards the end, that every day resilience is necessary. We are living in a COVID-19 environment where we have to engage with this virus, to use Erin's word earlier. And engaging with something is more than just, like I said earlier, petting it up or coaxing it along. It's actually making relationship with this particular thing or this particular someone to create a better way forward. And as you attain and focus on resiliency now for your teams in your workplaces, whether you are an HR professional or not, maybe you're an entrepreneur, maybe you're an aspiring HR professional, maybe you're just a business leader or just a regular employee, you have the ability to impact change in your operation by showing resilience, by being heartfelt, by being compassionate toward others, because there are going to be conversations like these that we saw in the case today, where there are going to be companies that fall out. We've seen it in our country already, with restaurants closing and hotels not opening, and they say they would, and so on and so forth. But the resilience is necessary, as we've discussed, to bring that whole thing to fruition, to bring it all together, right? And so the things that we discussed today in terms of personal resilience, you speaking into your situation, what you want to see happening for you, your professional resilience, understanding that no matter what you're up against from a professional perspective, as long as you are able to communicate effectively, and bring along those people who are going to be affected for the journey. Because even like Kathleen mentioned, you may have to disengage with someone who you're using for the next 6 months at the end of the 6 months, but you can do that in a humane and decent way. Your employee experience matters, and your employee experience right now determines a heap, as Grammy would say, of resilience. It needs you to be in their mind, body, and spirit so people can see you connected to what they once knew as as their normal, right? We're creating a new way forward, and that's going to require a whole lot of the resilience we've learned today. So I'm hopeful that today, with the examples you shared in the case study, with hearing a bit more of Erin's story, that you would have found out a bit more of how just resilient you are and how resilience can be both professional and personal.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ahmad.
Thank you.
So very well done. So we're at the tail end, we're in the final stretch of our webinar. We're just going to hear a little bit about what each one of our companies, what we do and what we specialize in, and then we're done. So if you could permit us maybe another 7 or 8 minutes, we'll be done. So Erin, over to you.
Thank you so much. And Ahmad, your theme for today, all of those points are absolutely pertinent. And so for me, like I shared, I'm a disability inclusion consultant. So what that does is that provides persons, individuals, organization, business, the ability to transition, pivot, integrate when it comes to accessible and inclusive strategies, business models, hiring practices, training policies, all of these things that are absolutely necessary during any sustainable product that you're going to provide from a business standpoint. Now, I would like to share within that over 1 million persons live with a disability worldwide. And it's one thing that this pandemic has caused all of us to do is not think beyond the rock, we call it. Think beyond the Bahamas, the archipelago. Our products and services can be reached, far-reaching globally, internationally. And in order for us to do that, it has to be more accessible and inclusive, because people with disabilities are the third largest economic powerhouse. So in order for you to tap into that demographic, you're going to have to be able to transition into more accessible forms through communication, through skill set, through products and services, and that is what I am here to help you with. So my contacts are there, and you can contact me anytime. I'm available.
Thank you, Erin. And all of our contact information will be sent out in an email over the next few days. So if you're
Yes, and let me add before I go, each of you that are on and registered today are going to receive a complimentary disability inclusion checklist that will be sent out to you. So thank you. I know, right? Happy spirit fingers. That will help you as a communicator. We made sure to include planning and communication, marketing strategies and policies. So that is our gift to you today.
Thank you, Erin. Wow. Much appreciated, much appreciated. Ahmad, over to you, sir.
Indeed. Again, thank you everyone so much for your feedback, for your time and your involvement this afternoon as we discover and understand just how resilient we truly are as a nation, but also as an individual and as a collective body. I am the principal of Astute Talent Management, which is a talent management consulting firm that focuses on organizations and the individual's ability to realize their full potential. I truly believe that every single one of us is made to be great and is made to do great things. And it's my sole pleasure to help in any way I can in terms of leadership development for the operation, for employee training, recruitment services, team building exercises, any number of things for the corporate world I'm able to do in my company. I'm sorry. My headphones just died.
Oh. Hello? No, we can't hear you. Okay, no problem. Go ahead. We can hear you now.
Okay, great. So yeah, I focus on the corporate, but also the individual. So individuals who might need help with resume and cover letter design, you may need assistance with interview sessions, being prepared for those, for your own leadership development, you can let me know. I'm happy to assist in any of those areas. And my contact information is also listed here on the business card attached. So feel free to follow me on any one of my social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, or send me a WhatsApp. I'm happy to help you. That's it.
Yes. Thank you, Ahmad. And I'm last, so I think most of you should know who I am, but I am Wellington Hepburn. I'm the president of WHI, Wellington Hepburn International. And right now we do personal development. We facilitate workshops, speeches, a little bit of coaching and mentoring, and just a variety of skill development activities in the community. Listen, Ahmad said it, and I believe Erin also supports the same view. It's about being your best self. And the motto for WHI is as we grow together. Guys, I can't express in words how what I know, I want all of you to know and more. You know, someone said to me a couple of days ago, he was like, you know, Hepburn, I see what you're doing locally and internationally, and I want to be like you. I said, no, don't be like me, be better. Let me teach you everything I know and be better, and I am willing to help you. And that is the motto of WHI. In the interest of time, I'll touch on a couple other things. We have certificates that are for sale. So if you wish to commemorate your participation in this particular episode, reach out to us. Each certificate is $4.99, and we can get you that digital certificate via email. I also want to highlight very briefly that WHI is in the process of writing 2 books simultaneously. Someone just thought, where does he find the time? When I find the answer, I will let you know. But the first book is Cultivating an Agile Mind, and we've come up with a proprietary model called the R5 model. So this book will be available on Amazon. If you're interested, you can avail yourself of it next month. I also had the good fortune of getting Bridget Hyacinth, who's one of the larger HR leaders internationally, to read the book and give a forward. So shout out to Bridget for that. And then last but not least, Ahmad and I would like to encourage you to attend our next event, which is on October 4th. So the first skill set in the transition series is resilience, but a very close second is execution. If you have a pen, write this down. Good companies know how to develop strategy, but excellent companies know how to execute. Anybody could come up with a strategy, but when it comes to execution and maintaining execution, that is what separates good from great. That is what separates success from failure. That is what separates all those big names that are coming to your mind right now in terms of companies that are doing execution well. That is why you're thinking about them. So come and join us on October 4th as we deliberate on the execution difference. What makes great companies great? All right. So with that in mind, we would like to thank each one of you for your time today. Thank you for allowing us a few more minutes of your schedule. You know, boy, it's funny. When you start talking about some stuff, you have to live it, right? So today was a real life example of having to live resilience, technical issues and such. But thank you for your time. If you have any questions, you know how to get in contact with all 3 of us, and continue to enjoy the rest of your weekend. All right. Thanks, guys.